Welcome, Alan, to our farm, Willenbring Family Farm. My name's Matthew Willenbring. We're in Cold Spring, Minnesota. I'm the eldest of four children. My grandpa and grandma bought the farm and acquired ownership of this farm when they first got married, and then my dad grew up on the farm. So he's been farming here his entire life, and I obviously grew up a half-mile away, but spent the vast majority of my growing up years here on farm, following the footsteps of Dad and Grandpa, absolutely. And with that, developed a passion and a love for the lifestyle. It's more than just a job; it's definitely a lifestyle. And when you've got dairy involved with it, especially, I mean, it's a 24/7, 2 times a day, 365 day a year commitment, and but a rich one in that it's definitely a fulfilling lifestyle to have.
I'm John Willenbring, located on the Willenbring Family Farm, and we're outside in the elements. This here farm was purchased by my grandfather for my dad to start farming back in 1947, and he had his first crop year in 1948. And when they come on this here place, there were a lot of old buildings, and everything was overgrown with weeds. It was kind of the talk in the community that it's going to really be tough for them people to make it over here. And but he persevered, and he actually was kind of an innovator. He was the first one to farm without checking his corn, which was a big thing back then. Checking corn, that was the way you controlled your weeds. And he started just planting it in a row straight, that way. And he continually was studying and doing different things compared to what I think the neighbors were doing too at that time. It was coming off of the '76 drought. We started irrigating. We bought an irrigation system, traveling gun, and it was actually no-till that year because we didn't have any ridges to plant on. We built the ridges the first year. We made a believer out of them though. Things worked out, and it was really great. So that kind of fueled, okay, we can do that. Now let's, we always were looking for something different. A little better than a year ago, Matthew pitched the idea of selling the cows and going to a grazing operation on the farm, grazing the land. Shortly after that, Derek approached us, threw us an offer, and we said, let's go. We brought in an experienced person to grazing, and also we're able to use our dairy facilities yet. And getting more diversity into our plant rotations, our crop rotation, and that's when we really started seeing the difference. And also at that time we quit chemicals. Once we started tightening up the rotation, and we could really start noticing some differences in the soil, and it was all positive. The only way you're going to get the consumer convinced that there's a difference is by tasting it, and then understanding the story behind the food as to why it tastes the way it does. And I think it's something that's well worth the effort to try and make happen. I think with just putting forth a good example in the community, and more of the younger generation might become interested and continue this on and go from there. Really appreciate the opportunity to share our operation with the world, basically.
It's never really just a one and done type step towards in regenerative agriculture in my mind. It's a journey, definitely a journey. I spent a summer butchering chickens, free-range chickens. As soon as I saw chickens out on pasture, it just opened up a whole array of opportunities and options in my mind. This is where chickens are supposed to be. This looks so perfect, and they were. They had sunshine, they had fresh air, they had insects, they had a salad bar of greens, and they were moved to those fresh greens daily. How you care for that chicken, the environment that you raise them in, and the food that you feed them is going to affect the quality of the meat, the milk, the eggs, or whatever product you're getting from that animal. Second step, from the dairy side of things, we were running out of feed. We were getting to that point where we were buying several semi-loads of forage just to meet our forage needs for our dairy cows. So with that forage shortage that we experienced, and bringing this nutritionist in, as soon as we started with the double cropping, within 1 year we went from buying several loads of forage to the following year we had excess forage that we were selling.
You're now able to produce more than you need.
Yes.
Off of the exact same acres.
Yes. It was solely, predominantly a change in management. You know, I had never thought that you could grow more than one crop in one field. I never thought that you could grow more than just monoculture in one field when I got into farming. Definitely just a management change predominantly, and just incorporating something, tightening that rotation. So now we're not suffering from 3-4 years of low production on an alfalfa field. Yeah. We're able to capture the nitrogen from that alfalfa, that legume, and then be able to plant a corn crop into that or a grass crop into it. You know, a lot of people say, well, it costs a lot of money to establish a stand of alfalfa. And yeah, it does, but it also costs a lot of money when you're buying chemical inputs to put back on there to fertilize for a successive crop.
And buying in additional feedstuffs as well.
Exactly. Within the first 2 years, our fertilizer bill went from hundreds to thousands of dollars a year to less than half easily. We are utilizing different plant species in a proper orientation that we could grow our nutrients and capture them from the air, from the soil, and from microbiological activity, from having the diversity and the different types of root systems.
You found that the key to being able to change that equation was adding a lot more plant species and therefore root diversity. And that manifested itself in a lot more microbial species and a stronger population that then started cycling those nutrients in the soil for you. And that was the thing that you were lacking beforehand.
Yeah, no, it was almost a night and day difference. I would have never believed that just a simple change or a few simple changes could make such a big difference.
In essence, what you've done here is you have applied now all 6 of the soil health principles and all 3 of the rules of adaptive stewardship.
Yes.
So and by applying all of the principles, you're creating positive compounding and cascading effects. Mm-hmm. You're definitively increasing your diversity. And what you've just described to me also is introducing planned, purposeful disruptions that allow you to continue to make progress.
We came to understand, that the soil is more than just a media to support a plant in, that it's a living, breathing, functioning ecosystem, and it needs to be cared for as much or more than the plant itself, because we are what we eat. What we eat comes from the soil, which is only a shadow of what it used to be. You have your legumes, you have your grass, you have a cereal grain, you have a brassica, and you have a kinopod. All growing together within every square foot of a field. What happened as a result of that is that just fueled an explosion of biological activity within the soil, and that biological activity you could accomplish in one growing season with those 5 plant species present what would normally take you 4 years or more with just planting monocultures. We started noticing insects in particular that started coming, and then we started seeing flowering plants. We had crimson clover that was flowering. We had the alfalfa that had blossoms on. We've had clovers that had blossoms on as well. Seeing the life that attracted was really encouraging. Got our Brix levels into double digits for the first time in this farm's history, but it's even greater when you feed it through livestock that you own, where you can see the results of it, because those animals absolutely mirror what is going on in that field and magnify it. Since starting to switch the feeds and the quality of them and so forth, calves literally slid out. We did, the last few years that we were dairying, had our own cows, we hardly ever pulled a calf. The calf would be up and literally running around in the pen within 15 minutes after it was born. Farming started becoming a lot more fun because we didn't have all of the we weren't rushing to fix all of these problems that always popped up. We started making that association between the animal health and what's going on in our soil. A year ago in this coming August, I went to my first Soil Health Academy at Breikreutz's, and that completely changed my mindset. What you're supposed to be looking for and what a healthy soil looks like, how it functions. But I'll never forget when you guys stood up there and said, now you're a part of our family. And you call it a family. And you said, it gets lonely out there being the only one in your area doing these regenerative practices and not having anyone around you doing it. But we are your family and we're going to support you. A few miles away in a neighboring town, there was a young dairy couple that were looking for a means to expand their grazing dairy. Worked out that they were very interested in renting our facilities, utilizing our dairy barn, which is a win-win because now we have animals in a building. It's not sitting idle, so it's not going to fall apart and deteriorate. The facilities are getting used, and we have our large ruminants for on pasture. And so everything seemed to kind of work out really, really well.
I am Derek Schmitz.
I'm Taylor Schmitz.
And we are at the Willenbring family farm. This is the farm that we are renting and have our dairy cows at. We actually met in high school. We were high school sweethearts, I suppose you could say. Yeah, we started dating our senior year.
It's Olivia here. You want to say hi? No.
I started grazing from the start when I first started milking my own cows, and it just made sense to head down this path. It made sense to healthier soil equals healthier cows. That seemed to make the most sense to me.
It's just been a lot of fun. Having her interact with the animals, she gets so excited when we go and get the cows right away in the morning. She's just talking to them and yelling to them.
It's great for your immune system to be outside and playing in the dirt and things like that, and to eat good food. We can grow some of the best food in the world, and I think that's super important. The Soil Health Academy is kind of a game changer. It was a life changer for sure. You can read all the books you want, but sometimes you just have to see what everybody's talking about and what the experts are talking about, and that was really helpful to have, and to be able to ask questions right away. It really changed the way I look at things and how I'm going to continue on farming the way I am. That was a great experience. So coming into the Willenbring family farm, it's really been a game changer for us. Just because we're finally on a farm where they think similarly to what we do. And by that I mean they understand and want to continue improving soil health, improving diversity, following the soil health principles. And they have the same kind of vision we do to produce the highest quality food we can. Grazing gives you, just even grazing conventionally gives you some health benefits, but grazing I suppose regeneratively really brings you even farther. And the cow health is improved, body condition is better, milk production is actually better. It's going really well. We don't have vet bills. I haven't had a vet on the farm in, I suppose, a year and a half, probably even a little bit more than that. They're just plain healthy. In the next 5 years, I would like to work on the genetics of my cows a lot more. I think we have, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to improve those as we apply the 6 principles a little bit better, a little more strategically. I think that's really going to take us a lot farther. We'd like to explore more markets as far as our milk, probably butter. I think there's a lot of opportunity there with a pastured, 100% grass-fed butter. Also, we'd like to work on our direct marketing. We direct market some beef, but I'd like to direct market more beef as well as other products too. Really into ruminants, so probably sheep.
It has been great to be able to spend our days together, especially with Olivia being growing every day. I mean, we get to enjoy all of her little yells and her excitement throughout the day. So that's always been really fun.
When I was younger, I would have never thought I'd want to work with my wife on the farm before I was married. But Taylor and I get along really well, and we work together really well. And it's really nice, and there's nothing I look forward to more than when I'm partway through milking in the morning and Taylor and Olivia come in the barn after. It's my favorite part of the day.
So you've got a very definitive plan to add quite a bit of diversity to the farm, and I really like what I'm hearing, in that you're not only going to add animal species diversity, but you're going to add a lot of different cropping species diversity as well. This is where we have seen people make the biggest leap, is being able to, when they dramatically expand the diversity of what they're doing, and then things radically change. But what you're telling me is that by integrating multiple species of livestock, integrating multiple species of crops, including things like potential fruit crops, nut crops, those types of things, that now you have the opportunity to be able to generate multiple revenue streams per acre.
Absolutely.
In the exact same year.
Dairy doesn't have to be just dairy. There's huge opportunities to be able to, for instance, chickens. I mean, how much forage does a chicken eat? They can eat quite a bit if you have a lot of numbers of them, but they can easily follow a grazing herd of dairy cattle, and you can, on that same acre, be able to raise eggs, be able to raise broilers, and have an opportunity to connect with your consumers, if you so choose, by inviting them out and doing some education as well, and so some agritourism as well.
Absolutely.
And so you have right there 4 different enterprises, if you combine the dairy with it, off of that 1 acre, just with chickens and cows alone.
But the other thing that you're doing, which is very critical, is by combining all of these different species, both animal and plants, on the same acre, you're creating very positive compounding and cascading effects. So from a biological standpoint and an ecosystem standpoint, you are making substantial progress, and then that's going to allow you to be able to even more reduce input cost on every acre for every one of those individual enterprises. In other words, what you're telling me is you're not afraid to have the consumer come onto your farm and to see what you do, and you welcome that. You want to be transparent, because you know that if you do that, you're creating this incredible relationship of trust.
Having that relationship, just like you had mentioned before, can create business opportunities here on farm as well. And also, it brings the heart and the purpose and the passion back to farming. Because now what you're doing, you can directly see the impact it's having.
Matthew, that's powerful. Thank you so much for, first of all, hosting us here on your farm, and thank you for sharing with us today. We deeply appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you.